Hey guys. Hello. Hello, hello. Oops. Can't move around too much. The cord behind me is kind of shaky. Hello, Beyond Black and White Elites. I know you're probably wondering, you weren't here on Friday. Where you been? What's going on? The fact of the matter is, it's summer and things are variable. There's a lot going on with my kids and with vacations and family and all this other stuff. So it is hard for me to keep to the schedule, but know that I have not forgotten about you guys. I know that you anticipate these live hangouts, and I love having them with you because, quite frankly, I love the interaction. It's amazing. The interaction has given me a purpose in life, and it's also changed a lot of lives. It's also shaken up a lot of lives. It's also upset a lot of people. And the byproduct of what I do and what I say have had ramifications all across my life, from being doxxed, from having people mail letters to my nneighbors, to having my children being threatened, just in general having my name dragged for filth all over the internet, by simply saying something that really should be a fundamental right for Black women, and that is to choose the best man for the job, and to not close our eyes and our ears and our mouths to what we see. And like I've said in a lot of videos, there's a lot of rabid, crazy Black dudes who don't like me, but there's a lot of rabid, crazy Black women who don't like me. Now, let me see something real quick, because it's saying that the chat is disabled. Let me just make
Black
sure.
Women
Oh, no, it's not. There it is. Oh, Melinda says, I'm loving Pink Pill. That's great. Looking like the Immaculate Conception with that skin glow. Oh, thank you. Actually, I thought it was a nice effect, but it's really a book light, because I've got my portable office here going. So I got this really cool book light, which can be a excellent light for lots of different situations. And it was only at $11.99 at IKEA. So I'm thrilled, so thrilled. But anyway, so I expected, sorry, you guys, like I said, the plug is kind of funky on this. And if I move a certain way, it'll black out. I expected the usual suspects to not, agree with me, to not like the messages that I sent. I think the most surprising and heartbreaking and disheartening pushback that I've gotten in the near decade that I've been doing this and saying this, the most heartbreaking has been from other Black women, and particularly young, impressionable women who have certain ideals, and they tend to be around, early 20s, very idealistic. They have certain ideals about their Blackness, their womanhood, their position in society. They've gone to college and they're like riled up with all of the social justice things that happen while you're, you know, in college. It's a bastion of activism. You know I was there. A bastion of activism. And so you have certain ideals and you have certain things. And so when you encounter a person, especially if that person seems to be a voice in the wilderness, as opposed to everybody over here, saying the same thing. You see this person over here who is saying something different. You have a choice to make. You pick a side, and quite often people pick the side that is, is the status quo. Hey,
what's up, ladies?
I'm glad you made it. I have a surprise, you guys. I got Kendall St. Charles on the line. I was stalling to until you came on because I wanted to wait to tell the reason why I titled "I Told You So" until you got until you got on. And it was so funny because you said to me when I showed it to you, when I showed you what it is I'm about to share with the audience, you were like, "Girl, are you going to post this?" And I was like, "I am." I mean, this is not the first time that's happened, but I was like, "I'm going to," because there's a lesson here, obviously, which is the reason why you were like, "Girl, you need to go on. We need to talk about this because it's an important topic." And I'm going to stop beating around the bush and tell you guys that I got a letter today from a former hater, a person who actively, it wasn't just that she didn't like what I said and she turned me off. It was that she actively tried to undo me. She actively disparaged me throughout the internet. She actively emailed me to have exchanges with me. So, so this is a woman who wrote me today. And so after, some years have passed, isn't that always the way, Kendall? Years have passed.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, life happens. Just like remember what our aunties used to tell us: you just keep living. You think you know everything, you just keep living. Remember they would say that?
Yep, and live a little. Yep, and you'll find out a lot of things.
A lot of things. So obviously I'm not going to give this person's name, but I will just read her note. It says, "Hey, you probably don't remember all the hate mail you have received." I remember quite a bit, but I try to keep it out of my mind. "Unfortunately, I was one of those women that commented on your blog plenty of times and sent you an email. It was a back and forth exchange. It happened years ago, but at the time I was 21 or 20. I'm 26 years old now, and I owe you a tremendous apology. I am 26. I am a 26-year-old Black woman that just realized my place in the world and my value in my own community. I'm not going to get into all my life experiences, but life, college, and relationships have taught me a lot. I am very sorry. I was a woman who participated directly and indirectly in tearing your platform down, slandering your character. I don't think those things anymore, and I'm really sorry that your platform has been discredited by a community that really needs it. Even now I watch because I believe in your cause. I am very sorry for the words I spoke against you, and I am sorry. Email exchange." And I wrote her back and I said, "Thank you." I said, "While the slander has been deeply hurtful, I really appreciate you coming to me and apologizing. It means a lot, and growing is about self-correction, and it sounds like you're on your way." So, I was gracious, I try to be gracious, but Kendall, you know how we do. You know how this stuff works, right? What were you thinking when I shared that note with you?
I was thinking that this is why sometimes it's better to sit down, shut up, and let the grown women speak.
Mm-hmm.
As young women, we are very idealistic and we think we know everything. And when you're dealing with older women, particularly older Black women, who are telling you things that you do not want to hear, many times there's a natural tendency to rebuke and to declare that, well, just because that's what, happened to you, or just because that's what you chose to do, or that's how your life turned out, doesn't mean it's how my life's going to turn out. And so, those of us who are a little older, who've lived a little, we learn to just chuckle at that because we know.
Mm-hmm.
And live a little, life happens, and when you live a little and you see the truth, a lot of times you forced to eat that humble pie.
Right.
And we've all been there.
Absolutely.
I've been there too, so we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, unfortunately, for Black women, young Black women, they don't have the luxury of making the kinds of mistakes that will be very difficult to course correct from. I think white women in particular are able to make a certain amount of mistakes and kind of have a high learning curve as young women, teens and early, young 20s and stuff, but they can course correct pretty well. But for us, getting off on the wrong foot, not listening to wisdom, going down the wrong path, thinking you know everything, it will send you on a 20 to lifelong year detour that you may never recover from.
Yep. And here's the thing. I mean, we're all young, stupid, and idealistic. I mean, we've all been that way. And you're right. A lot of us, we can't afford to make those mistakes because there's not a safety net. And I'm not talking about government safety nets. I'm talking about resources within the family, within your community, within your neighborhood, within your network of people that allow for you to make certain mistakes and still be able to course correct without any major damage done. A lot of us might say, I'd hazard to say most Black women don't have that luxury. But here's what happened. So Kendall, I'm going to tell you why I'm upset. And I'm going to tell you, on one hand, it's very gratifying. What is the word? When somebody finally sees things your way.
Vindicating.
Vindicating. It's vindicating. But at the same time, I'm upset, and here's why. It took you years to figure out what I was saying was true. Whatever it was, if people have been around long enough to know what I stand for. And all the while, you took part in a campaign to slander me. Gleefully. And I know, I know the slander campaign. They're all over. It's Lipstick Alley. They used to be on Long Hair Care Forum, but apparently Long Hair Care Forum has now shifted, and they like me again. But they're all over. They're the ones who are turning in my personal information. The ones who are extremely happy at any misfortune in my life, or any misfortune that befalls on anybody close to me. So you did all of this damage. You did all of these things for all of those years. And then life taught you that I wasn't lying. That what I was saying was valid, and what I told you had merit. And you did this tremendous damage to my reputation and to my life. And now you're sorry. You know what I mean? It's like you just this trail of tears, this trail of damage and just like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you're at war with a country and you bomb, the wrong building and you kill a bunch of people. You're like, oh, sorry. You know what I mean? Well, thanks for your sorry, but there are 300 dead babies over there that you actually
Hmm.
killed, on purpose.
Well, Black people think that they can do anything and expect a second, third, and fourth chance, and think that someone's supposed to offer that to them. Someone's supposed to forgive. Someone is supposed to show compassion. Someone's supposed to absolve, no matter what is done. And I think that there's a strong religious component to that. The idea of the Savior, the salvation, we're all fallen people who need a second, third, and fourth chance. And then also because of, particularly Black Americans, our history in this country, we're always looking to be redeemed. And we bring that into our interpersonal dynamics with each other. And I've experienced this too, where Black women will attack, will betray, will sabotage, and then circle back around and experienced this too, where Black women and will circle back around and admit wrong or guilt. But it's very interesting that, one of the things that we get frustrated with Black men about is their ability to do all manners of mishigas
Right,
to us, and then expect us to just forgive, just to get over it, move past it. We'll stop holding on to the past, and well, can't you
right,
just move
right,
on? But we don't realize that a lot of that energy they're learning from us as Black women who treat each other that way, and then say, well, can't you, um, I'm sorry, can everything be okay now? And everything can't always be okay. There are going to be things that you do that there is no forgiveness for. There are no second chances. There are no backseas, no do-overs. And I think Black people in general have a really hard time with that. Um, and they really have a hard time with that when it comes to us as Black women. The expectation in the community is that we will always forgive, that we will always allow us a second, third, fourth chance, that as the mothers and the nurturers of the community, that it is our role to represent compassion. And therefore, we should always be willing to hear the other person's side, and then offer absolution. And y'all know I don't believe in any of that foolishness. Um, and I make that very clear. But I've also had women who have done very similar things as what this young lady did, and then circle back a couple of years later, and
you're
admit to
kind of
me
breaking up a
that
little bit.
they inbox me
Hmm.
and do the same thing, the exact same thing, and expect you to just kind of capitulate and say, well, okay, I'm glad you learned your lesson. Now welcome back into the fold. And that's not how life works.
Right,
When I don't think a lot of people, at least a lot of women, either they don't know or they do know and they don't care how precarious of a position women like you and I are in doing this work, that there are real life threats that exist for us, and we have interests. We're not children. We're not young girls in their early 20s just starting out in life. We are middle-aged women with families and children and interests to protect. And so I just spoke about this today on my page. It can be very frustrating, trying to serve a demographic who is so flippant about your interests. They think this stuff is a game where they bounce
yes,
from page to page, platform to platform. They like you one minute, they don't like you the next. They your BFF one minute, the next minute they supporting your arch enemy, and it's all fun and games, until it's not fun and games no more. It's not fun and games for us. There are real life risks involved
right.
in doing
And
this work
ramifications.
and ramifications. And I think that a lot of the women, I think that Black women don't appreciate the sacrifices that we make in order to try to be of help to them. And I think that they're very flippant with our safety and with our interests, and think that this is all about opinions and beliefs, and it's about so much more than that. And then when they finally learn those harsh lessons, sometimes there's this thing of, okay, well, I get it now, so I'm on your side now. But you don't realize that you contributed to jeopardizing me, my family, my safety, my peace of mind, because you were too young, too ignorant, and too arrogant to appreciate wisdom when it was shown to you. And now that you're a bit older and you've lived a little and you've seen it yourself,
You've
now
been
you
knocked around. You've seen the stuff yourself.
yes,
Exactly.
and
Happens, you
right.
know, all of a sudden it's not your father and your brother and everybody, it's like, oh, I don't see what you see. Life has shown you what
Hmm.
we've shown you.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you see what we see. But the thing is that there is damage that has been done. And what I find a lot with Black women, especially when they're ready to, correct, there's a whole lot of baggage that goes along with all of these choices that your wrong-headedness and your hard-headedness got you. And so you can't just be like, okay, well, whatever, that was wrong. Okay, so I'll do it this way, and we'll just do it. No, you have all of this other stuff that happened, that now you're all these consequences of making other choices that now you're going to have to maneuver around to try to correct. And the point to all of this, and there's so many lessons here, but I feel like one point is there are new actions, there's consequences to your wrong-headed thinking. And I think that there is sort of a karmic element to the fact that Black women don't support each other, and that
Hmm.
they're willing for the male, the men in the group over the women, and willing to sacrifice them and endanger them for Scooby snacks. Like, I think there's some karmic energy that comes with that. These women are willing to do that. I mean, I'm not, I'm not all this hocus pocus stuff, but Kendall, what do you say about all of it?
I mean, we are living out that karma. I mean, everything we see going on with Black people is the results of that energy of the Black woman selling this her sister out for her son. And I don't mean literal sister for literal son. I mean symbolic sister, meaning her fellow Black woman, for her symbolic son, meaning the Black male. And this is what's been going on. This happened thousands of years ago. This is what's been going on. This is what has been wrong with Black people for a really long time. And it is what created the favorable conditions for other people to come in and exploit and capitalize off of the problems that existed already between Black people, and uh, ending us in enslavement and being colonized and imperialized. So this is not just about this letter from this one girl. This is a historical pattern of Black women throwing their fellow Black women under the bus, and then being forced to face the consequences later on. And wisdom. Wisdom, she's the spirit of wisdom is a woman, is female, and she doesn't like to be rebuked. When you and this we all know this, when what they say, first time shame on you, next time shame on me. When you are being taught lessons on giving out knowledge that can help you in an area, and you rebuke that knowledge in ignorance or arrogance, you are often very severely punished. And everybody knows this. When you don't listen, what they say, a hard head makes a soft behind.
Right.
So when you rebuke,
And life life is the, what do I say, the best teacher is living your
yes.
life.
And when you rebuke the spirit of wisdom, she becomes very punishing.
Mhm.
No different than a mother. Think about your mother. Your mother's trying to instruct you on how things should be and how you should handle things, and you're gonna tell your mother how you gonna do it. So your mother lets you go out there and crash and burn, and then when you come back, what she do? She look at you. And you know what I'm saying? She gives you that look, like, well, I told you, didn't I tell you? If you had listened to what I said. And
Mhm.
so unfortunately, young women, and all young women, it doesn't matter what race you belong to, young women always think they know better than older women.
Yes, they do.
But in particular for Black women, it's a much more complex situation because unfortunately, in many ways, older Black women have not played the proper role that they were supposed to play for the younger Black women. The crone, the older Black woman,
Right.
has not historically done for the maiden what she needed. And so there's a lot of distrust on the part of the maiden. She doesn't want to listen to the older woman because the older woman has led her astray in her advice and her
We
counsel.
hear all the time, Generation X, y'all failed us. And I have to agree. I feel like we did, especially with this whole later on. But we have failed in a lot of ways. This is a mess,
It's
you
a
know.
mess.
And one thing that I find is that we'll be wrong. You know, it's like somebody said, strong and wrong,
Strong and
and just
wrong.
will never capitulate to the wrong. Never say, you know what, that was a wrong choice. Will dare you to defy or to call out, and that's the problem. Where you see a lot of these men, they're so angry because they feel like, you know, women who put them in these situations, their mothers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can't talk to them about the pain that you feel. How dare you defy me? Don't you dare call me out on any of my bullshit. You know
Right.
what I mean? We are a generation that we just did not. We were so hard headed. We thought we had it all figured out. And you know, I can look back and say, yeah, those were some wrong choices. Even like with this generation, though, I'm looking from an observer and I'm seeing the wrong choices that you're gonna make, and that your children are gonna hold you accountable for your
Mm-hmm.
foolery. I mean, we know, none of us ever do it, but there are consequences to wrong choices, and you life will teach you, the world will teach you, and it's not always a pleasant lesson. And Kendall, you brought to my attention, and we won't go into detail, but this actually happened to you, where recently somebody said to you, hey, isn't it time you've forgiven me now? You know, why don't you let me, you know, stop, unblock me, you know, let me back into your groups. You're talking, you know, you basically using your own words of wisdom against you to try to get you to take her back into the fold.
Yeah, I did. I just experienced this within the last week, an email I received from someone who was in essence demanding that I offer them forgiveness for betraying me and my platform, for violating the NDA that covers my events, and then tried to imply that I was a hypocrite for not offering her forgiveness, demanded that I should offer her forgiveness on demand. Um, and that kind of um, gall is the kind of stuff that I see with Black women every day. This kind of demand, you throwing your weight around and you're going to decide when and where somebody's supposed to forgive you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting to me that Black women seem to be so confused and perplexed about their male counterparts and the behavior of the Black man. And they really don't they feign so much complete surprise and ignorance about why he is the way he is. And I deal with Black women every day. I know exactly why the Black male is the way he is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because no damn Y chromosome. It's not because of some kind of, I mean, there's some stuff going on there too, but no, a good portion of what the Black man is, he learns directly from the women around him. And Black women don't realize that they're being watched all the time by their sons and the boys that are growing up in their homes. rooms and watching how we interact with each other, watching our passive aggression, our hypocrisy, our duplicity with each other, and they grow up and they emulate it and treat us the same way. And we think that we got away with something, that our sons don't see us, that they don't know what we're doing. They don't read through our bullshit, our nice nastiness, our passive aggression, our so-called religiosity, our churchianity, where we swear that we are good Christian women, but we act like everything but. We really think that nobody sees us, but our sons see us and everybody sees us. So when someone inboxes me demanding that I forgive them, when it doesn't benefit me at all to do so, this person is not in any way, shape, or form. I can't make use of this person in any way. There's nothing that this person has that I need. This is not a long-time supporter or follower of mine. This is not a patron who's been with me since the beginning. So for someone to have the gall, the audacity to inbox me and demand that I should forgive them, to me, this is y'all know I hate that ignorant, arrogant maiden
Yep.
archetype. I hate it in Black women. I rebuke it with all. I
I
rebuke
know you
the.
do, girl.
Oh my God, I can't stand that, and it's because of the audacity,
Hmm.
the unmitigated goal to think that you know better than women who have lived twice, three times, four times your life, and that you're gonna tell us. And when you don't even have all of the facts, and I think that's what bothers me so much about um, the situation that with this letter that you got, is that you have women who don't have all of the facts, who are speaking up on things that they don't fully understand, and not only are they rebuking wisdom, but they're leading other women to rebuke wisdom because they don't know what they're talking
Yeah.
about. And then when they live a little and see some things, then they now start to understand what we were talking about. At least this situation was, your situation, the woman did come back and admit wrong. In most cases, they never admit wrong. What is
Right.
very interesting, and
Well,
I,
it's happened a few times. I'm sure it's happened with you too. It's happened very few times. There have been times where I've observed, maybe on a forum, where somebody said, "Yeah, I used to think." I mean, at this point, you can't really say, "Oh, thank you, Matthew. Matthew contributed $10." At this point, you can't say Christelyn is a fraud, or Christelyn is just out for whatever. Like, I've been here for a decade. I mean, pretty much all of the things that you said that at the beginning, you can't really say now. I've
right.
been doing this. I've been taking these hits for a decade. So I think that people are, there is a shift, a tremendous amount of damage for people who have deliberately tried to hurt me and undo me and hurt my family and hurt my affect my livelihood, and because I put myself out there. Kendall, you've had people threaten you in that same way, and you've had a level of protection because you stay sort of in the shadows. But you've had people actively try to seek you out and find you to do harm to you.
Yeah.
But simply just trying to present a different point of view that is helpful, that is life-saving in so many ways, and that we've had to make certain choices, like going underground. And by we it's kind of like a groundhog. We'll
Mm-hmm.
peep up, but keep our heads up for a minute, and then we'll go back down underground, where it's safe, because of the risks that it takes, because the very people that we're trying to save will be the ones that will be at the head of trying to undo us. And I know that, I mean, even in my own life, like, I know that you've got some things going on, you've got some major things going on, and I know you don't want me to tell anybody, so I'm not going to tell anybody, but like, you've got some major things that are going on, wonderful things. You guys need to be on her mailing list, because she's going, even, how Kendall will pop up and then she goes away, but she's going to have a space where only the elite of the elite, only the chosen people will be able to enter. And she's been working on this for a very long time. But you teaching me was like really life-saving, and that happened with the whole veganator situation. And that was, I don't even regret that that happened, because it changed, it shifted how I thought about everything. And it shifted, where how I should direct my energy, who deserves it and who doesn't. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
And, one thing that we have to be okay with, and I know you're okay with, but the thing is that people who follow us, people who listen to us, um, we're sort of these, we're we're mavericks.
Mhm.
We are not the status quo. We are a different breed of woman, of Black woman, and um, I've had to accept that uh, that's always going to be a smaller percentage from the collective. And I'm okay with that now. But there was a point where I was so idealistic that I thought
Mhm.
I could put myself all out there. Just like with this channel, I put so much out there, so much of my life, so much of my heart, so much of everything. And it just wasn't, it was the wrong move. And so having to retract and understanding that there's only going to be a certain amount of women. There's only going to be a certain amount of women who are willing to take the blue pill. There's only going to be a certain amount of women who are going to be willing to take the pink pill. You know what I mean? So uh, we need to focus on that and move accordingly.
Somebody, I'm not, I have my page deactivated. So somebody, yeah, thank you. Somebody, please delete this Claire person, because they're in the chat room talking a whole bunch of fugazi nonsense. But I will say this, yeah, one of the things that I find very interesting, and I'm sure you have too, is how different the discourse is now on YouTube. And what I find very interesting is there are so many people now, both male and female, who came out as open enemies of ours, called us all kinds of names, made all kinds of ugly accusations, put out false truths and false narratives, attempted to release personal information about us, shared fake information about your family and your husband, and made all kinds of um, cruel videos and memes and all kinds of things, kind of defaming and defiling women like us, who are now sounding remarkably like us.
Right. I
And
mean, can we talk about that? Can we talk
yes,
about
let's talk
And
about
thank
that.
you for the $20 contribution and on Wyatt. It is so strange because do we not do we not want to mention names or
We don't have to mention names, because let's not even feed that. Y'all know they love when, as soon as we show up and we start doing work together, here come the feeding frenzy. Because see, what people don't understand is there's something called it's a spiritual, a thing called vampirism. Y'all know of it when you have an emotional vampire. And all it really
Mhm.
means is when someone seeks to feed off, or someone or something seeks to feed off of the energy of something else. And so when they don't like us individually, but when you and I come together, it ruffles so many feathers, and it's like blood in the ocean. The sharks come circling because they're trying to feed off of us. They're
I
trying to.
mean, there's something that happened. I mean, because we're honestly we are cosmically meant to be. Like we just together we're such a force for change, and it's amazing. And people see it, and that's why you have people whispering in your ear, "Why do you mess around with her?" People say the
Mm-hmm.
same thing about me. Actively
Mm-hmm.
try to separate us because it makes them so uncomfortable. So we won't mention names, but we will say this: that we've been around this YouTube blocks for a while, and we've seen narratives changing
Mm-hmm.
with certain people who created their platform. This is to me the part that's really shady. Like you built your platform off of vamping. We talk about vamping off of us by bad mouthing us,
Mm-hmm.
by telling us that we had it wrong, that we understood it wrong, that we were just a bunch of bitter baby mamas who,
Old, hit the
else.
wall. Mm-hmm.
We're just done wrong. We're sour. We're salty. Why should I listen to anything that a baby mama has to say when when I haven't been through that? and then seeing these same people who
Yep.
now, their channels have gotten popular. They rose. Their channels rose because of being de- derisive of our platforms, particularly me, mocking me,
Mhm.
actually
Mhm.
calling me a bed wench, a sellout, everything else. But life has taught you,
Mhm.
ladies, whose name starts with C, but I'm not going to say anything else than that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
Life has taught you that what much of what we're saying is right. And now maybe you're trying to parse things a little bit, but everybody knows that you now see what we saw.
Well, no,
And
everybody doesn't know, and that's the part that gets me. Those who have been watching, who have been around for a while, and know what has gone on, and know the difference between just a year or two ago and now, and the stances and positions that are being offered in those on those platforms now know. But many of the new people who are flocking to these platforms, and I see it. I go to the comments section. Someone will send me a video and say, "Take a listen to this. This sounds just like you in your whatever video. This is exactly what you said in 2016 in your such and such video, and this person had so much to say about it, and now they're saying the exact same thing. Listen, go to this mark, and I'll go and I may listen, and then I'm not so in. I don't really care about what the OP, the content creator. What I'm interested in is the comments. That's what always interests me. And there's so many people who are just finding this world, just finding these people, and they're under the video going, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I found you. You always keep
I
it
mean,
so real." And oh
we've
my
done all of the heavy lifting, and so now you talking about the
God.
same thing we talk. Didn't have a single you. I mean, you've had a few bumps on the road, but you now have turned coat, you've turned tail. Now all of a sudden you see it our way,
Yep.
and now you want to be a pioneer for our way after you done drag us for filth for years.
And
Like,
we'll
are you
never,
serious?
ever, ever admit it. We'll never admit.
Never.
We'll
They
never
never will.
double back and say, you know what, they were right. We'll never. They will just proceed like they woke up one day, like Beyonce.
Yes.
I woke up like this, and all of these great connections and all kinds of epiphanies were going off in their head, and now they're stating them for the first time for the world to hear. And the people who are listening to them, who don't know the history, sit on these poor young ignorant girls and women who don't know, go flocking to these platforms, listening to these people, and I just look at the comments and I literally just shake my head because the women don't know. So they hear this thing that sounds so revolutionary, so new, so prolific and profound, and they're gushing with appreciation and gratitude in the comment section towards this woman who literally poached 3/4 of everything that she has said in this hour-long video off of somebody else's platform, and not in a way that she was inspired. And so she's picking up the mantle. No, she actively came out against these women
Right.
and their message just a year or two ago, and is now pretty much regurgitating the exact, sometimes literally word for
Mm-hmm.
word. And I
Yeah.
just think to myself, Black women are something else. We a special, special breed. And we talk a lot about white women. We talk about right now, Becky's all in everybody's minds. We got Permit Patty, we got Barbecue Becky, we all of these different situations where white women have been acting a plumb fool, calling the police on Black people for doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We had the girl at Stanford or Harvard, whichever one it was, that got called for falling asleep in the common area of the dorm. I mean, we got all stuff, and so we got a lot to say about Black white women and their ability to be conniving and treacherous, and their ability of their cultural appropriation, how they will poach and steal and rob things from us as Black women and never give us credit and act like they came up with it, monetize it, and then turn it into an empire. I mean, we saw this with Kim K. We saw this with so many other situations where, white women have used their privilege in order to in essence, to take from us as Black women. And we're very salty about that. We don't like that at all. But what we don't really want to admit is that we can be just as devious as white women, and that we can be just as callous, just as duplicitous, just as hypocritical, and just as willing to take the credit for something that another black woman did, no different than a white woman who has the twerking Russian twerking dance teams on
Right.
YouTube that get 2 and 3 million views. When the poor black girl who was twerking in her bedroom,
Yeah, she was the
whose
host in a
moves,
song.
right? She's the whole thought whore, bastard baby maker, BT 1000, who needs to die in a cesspool communities in which she lives. But the Russian women who create the dance teams that put out videos with no ass, calling themselves twerking, oh no, they win prizes and they get millions of views and lots of accolades for their supposed technical skill in dancing. But the poor little black girl, hood girl, that they stole the muse from, she gets, she gets tossed under the bus. And so we're very, very sensitive to what we believe is the duplicitous nature of white women. But I will suggest this, and I will submit this. You and I both, because of the work we do, we see a side of black womanhood that the average black woman does not see. We see it from a collective position, meaning we're up high because we're leaders, because we are in the public square looking out at the masses of black women. And we see patterns of behavior that maybe you guys on the other side don't see or don't recognize in its fullness. And I can tell you this, that black women can be just as duplicitous and just as willing to rob you and just as willing to take credit for shit,
Mm-hmm.
even after, as they will simultaneously throw you under the bus in a video,
Mm-hmm.
throw you, your message, your talking points under the
Well,
bus, and then literally quote exactly what you said, as if it's, and it is just, ladies, y'all know that I am no longer on YouTube because I've had enough of the foolishness. And I give you mad props, Chris, for coming back and doing what you did, which are Beyond Black and White Elite in your pink pill, which has been quite successful. Ladies, the pink pill is popping. Christelyn has gone above and beyond for that project. The group is active. She's continually updating and upgrading new interviews. I mean, she had an interview with Ralph Richard Banks, the author of Is Marriage for White People. She's had a woman come in recently and talk about investing, how to get into investing and making your money work for you as a single mother. I mean, she's deepening the pink pill, much more than anything that you were obligated to do for the price that was paid. And so you have rebounded. You have taken the dark wisdom that I guided you with, and you have taken it to a whole other level. And so I'm real proud of what you have done. But it is very interesting to see how many people were dancing the jig. All of those videos, ding dong, the witch is dead, when you left YouTube, and everybody just thought the way was going to be clear now for the women who thought that they were good enough to supplant you, to wear your crown, thought that they was going to rise. That didn't happen. The dudes who thought, oh yeah, now we finally got rid of that bitch. Yeah, well, that didn't happen. And so you've come back stronger. But what is very interesting is that the talking points, the conversation in general that is now taking place particularly on YouTube, in the so-called Black gender war, is very different than it was in 2015 or so, before I came on the
yeah.
scene and before you and before you started imploring some dark wisdom. No one was talking about slavery. No one was talking about who was at the gate. No one was talking about nation building, except for maybe the hoteps. No one was asking and asking a different set of questions beyond, makeup and weave and that kind of
Right.
foolishness. And now you see all of these platforms, even those who swear they hate us, they don't listen to us, they have nothing for us. They spend a lot of time talking about those things, but will never credit us, will
Nope.
never acknowledge the influence that we've had, will never acknowledge the impact that our messages have had, and how it compelled them to go deeper. It compelled them to just to walk away from just the
Mm-hmm.
surface crap that was easy to go, to emotionally and verbally masturbate to, and to dig a little deeper to come up with some answers for questions that nobody before us was asking. Um, or at least nobody was asking at the scale that we've asked it. And so it is very interesting to see, particularly the women, though, the women who, these platforms that are still thriving. And I just sit there and I listen to some of these videos and I'm like, did I not say this exact thing, And this person,
And
or these
but what's
people,
even worse is they've done series of
yeah,
videos.
that's what I was getting ready to say, to debunk us, to debunk us. 2 and 3 response videos to our one video, telling the world that we were crazy, that we're old, we're bitter, we don't know what we're talking about. We've just hit the wall. Don't listen to us. We made poor choices in life, and with this haughty arrogance. And then I hit fast forward a year and a half, and I'm like, well, my God, I guess you were listening. I guess I wasn't as crazy and old and bitter and washed up as maybe you thought, because you were literally mirroring everything that I've said, and everything that you tried to undo me for, everything that you thought you were in a position to rebuke me for, to counter argument me for, and you were not in a position to do that. Yet you thought you were, because you're an ignorant, arrogant maiden. And be clear, ignorant, arrogant maiden phase is not necessarily just youth in age. It's immaturity. It's women who have not lived and think they know when they don't. And so I see some of these militant pages, some of these, it's just interesting to see
Mm-hmm.
how you can have such an impact on people who will never acknowledge that you have, yet they need you. They need women
Yeah.
like you and us. When you were gone for those couple of months off of YouTube, it was very interesting to see what was happening in your absence, and it was nothing. They couldn't
Mm,
feed off of you. There was no, and they tried. They were still putting your names and videos and stuff. And I was like, but she's not here to feed off of.
yep.
So there was no ability to feed. And that was a really great lesson for you. And I'm so glad that you made that
Yeah.
decision to pull away, because I
Yeah.
told you, girl, that you didn't even fully understand who you were in the role, the position that you play.
I
And
did.
when you pulled away for a couple of months, you saw they didn't know what to do without you. They don't know.
There
They
was
need us.
people were saying the 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 gender war is over because Christelyn is gone from YouTube. Really? Like,
It was
oh
weird.
my
It
God, I
was
had
really
no
weird.
idea it was that important. And I was, now that Christelyn has been overthrown, the whole discussion, the swirling discussion is now just silly. Really? Wow. I had no idea that I was the linchpin for all of this.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting to watch. And so at this point, I'll have no skin in this YouTube game. I'm done. I told you I'm done.
Mhm.
And if I ever do come back, it will be on a very different level. It will be for my new platform, which is going in a very different direction. But it is very interesting. And so I'll say that, you got a letter this week. I got a letter last week with Black women. One, in my case, we were demanding forgiveness, and another one who's offering an apology. But I think this speaks to the larger lessons, and I've talked about this before. Sometimes it's better to be quiet and let wisdom speak. Older women, sometimes you need women who've made a couple of mistakes in life to tell you the truth, to either help you course correct when you've done the same, or to help you avoid the pitfalls altogether. But when you arrogant and you think you know and you think you got it, um, sometimes you need to live a little bit more to get humbled. And
Right.
we all get humbled. I've been
Oh, yeah.
humbled. You've been humbled. We get humbled. And a mature woman, an older woman, knows what it feels like to be humbled when she thought
Oh,
she
yeah.
knew. But the younger woman doesn't have the benefit of time. And so that's why it's not that young women can't have opinions or specific goals or desires. But if you have women, what gets me is this: if we were women who were older women, Black women, and we're not old, but we're middle-aged women, we're in our mid-40s. So
Mhm.
if we were telling Black women to become more of the sacrifice, to give up more of your life, to have more children, to deal with more no good dudes, to birth more recklessly, to do all of the things that Black women suffer from now, then I could see them rebuking us. I could see them feeling some kind of way, because what our advice is giving them less options, not more. What's interesting is that when a young woman who doesn't really know much about life, but is very idealistic and thinks she knows, will rebuke a woman who's giving her more options, who's
Right.
saying, listen, you can have this one, that one, and that one. That is
Mhm.
where it becomes very interesting. And that's when you know that wisdom is not present. When a woman who does not know rebukes an older woman who is giving them more, not less, who is saying,
Right.
listen, if you just tweak the way you think, tweak a couple of things about the way you move in the world, and open up your mind, you will have many more options than you even believe are possible for you. And a lot of the things that you are worried about, a lot of the things that bring you pain, a lot of the fears, the quiet fears. Am I ever going to get married? Am I ever going to have children, in a family situation? Am I ever going to have a life partner? Am I ever going to feel good about the way I look? Am I ever going to experience a situation where my skin color is celebrated, my features are celebrated, my hair is celebrated? These are all the things that the average Black woman thinks about and secretly feels, even though we don't want to ever admit it. But so when you come across a woman who is trying to give you permission to accept your hair, accept your skin, accept your womanhood, your fragility, your delicate nature, who is giving you permission to pull back, to not be the mule for everything and everybody, to not risk everything for everyone but yourself, to you know, demand some reciprocity, some compensation, some restitution, who says, if you want me to show up for you in this way, then I need you to show up for me in this way. If you come across women who are offering you that, and you accuse those women of being liars or haters or whatever, in league agents, whatever, the chances are you're the one who needs to reevaluate.
Yep.
If we were coming to you and restricting you like some of these women do, telling you what's not possible for you, well, ain't no man gonna really want you, well, no white man's gonna let you in this patriarchy, well, they don't really love you, well, they don't, or well, nobody wants you in this world, you have no first line of protection, even the Asian scientist said that you're the least wanted woman on OK Cupid. I mean, women who say those type of things to you, how is that helping you? I
Right.
don't understand. And so for young women, particularly young women, who will rebuke the woman, the older woman, who is trying to set them free, who is saying, listen, you don't have to do what we're saying. Just consider what we're saying. Just realize that you may think there's only three options on the table when there's actually an additional three or four more that you're not even considering or that you don't even think are for you. Why would you rebuke? That's how I know that that's not wisdom in that woman, that is ego, that is ignorance and arrogance. And so when they go out into the world and realize that those three options that they swore were about, were the business, and they get out in the world and they age, see, because a young woman, 21, 22, 23, is at a different position than a woman who's in her 40s and 50s. And so, your most young women are looking for love, potential marriage, maybe, definitely motherhood. And so the hopes and dreams that you have as a young woman are going to, they're different. That we're on the other side of that stuff. We've done the motherhood thing. You've done the marriage. I've done the relationship thing. We both have young adult children. So we're on the other side. So we have a vantage point that's different. We had those stars in our eyes. We believed that philosophical idealism. We believed that it was all going to work out. We believed in Black love. We believed in all these things. And we're on the other side of it now. And all we're trying to say is the bridge is out. So if
Right.
you're gonna risk this, risk this river, then at least put on a damn life jacket. At least get in the
Right.
boat. Don't just jump in thinking that your idealism is the way the world's gonna work, and then when you begin to drown, now you're asked out, and you bring the whole community down with you and your fellow Black women with you. So I
Right.
think that what's frustrating for me is when women get mad at us for giving them more options. I mean, I don't understand that. It's like they get
We're throwing them in the
angry.
life raft. I mean, they're drowning. They may not know this. We're throwing them in the life raft, and they're angry for that.
Yes.
That's the issue.
Yeah, they're angry. They're angry that we're telling them and I think they're angry for a lot of different reasons, which both of us have discussed in depth on our platforms. But I think ultimately they're angry because they don't feel worthy of the things that we're telling them are possible for them. They're afraid. It's unknown territory. They're afraid of being rejected. They're afraid of being unwanted. They're afraid that if they leave the dark caves of their native communities and cultures, and go out into the world, that the world will not receive them, that all of the warnings that they've been given about what white people will do, what white men will do, what the world will do to them will be we're sending them out into the wild to get devoured. And what we're saying is, baby girl, you're being devoured right now.
Right.
You're being devoured in the comfort of your own home. You're being devoured as you walk down your streets and are being sexually harassed by the time you're 8, 9 years old. You're being devoured in your own churches and your places of worship. You're being devoured in your own relationships, in your families, and in your supposed to be loving romantic relationships and partnerships. All of the things that you're afraid of that we're sending you out to is what you're experiencing right here in so-called safety of your own people. And I think when we say that to them, it sends them into an existential crisis that they don't know what to do with, and so they just attack us. And I get it,
Right.
especially when you're young and you
It's
don't know and you're scared.
you're faced with information that's different from what you think you should be thinking, your philosophy. And you have a choice. You have a choice whether you're going to process this new information and maybe readjust what you think, which is more difficult and is the less likely mode. The more likely is that you're going to try to attempt to discredit the source,
Mm-hmm.
um, belittle the source, question the data so that you can continue with your mind frame and what you're thinking because that's what makes you comfortable because
Mm-hmm.
it's so uncomfortable to readjust. But sometimes life kicks your ass so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Have to, sometimes, and that's what I don't, she didn't go into details. The letter writer didn't go into details, but what she said was, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she said, I realize my place in the world and my value in my own community. I'm not going to get into all my life experiences, but life, college, and relationships taught me a lot. She kept living. She got older. She went to college. She had some relationships. And here's the thing, and what's so great about what we do is we do plant the seed. And so this is a perfect example of us planting a seed. We planted the seed in her and she could not accept what we were saying. She, accept what I was saying. She was so resentful of it that she hate watched. But there was something in the back of her mind that processed it. And then when life showed her what we
Mm-hmm.
were saying, she was like, oh. So there were some seeds that were planted. Um, and that's caused the shift. And so I'm glad that that happens, but I really resent the fact that my name has to be dragged through the mud while people are going through their phase of, first hating me and resenting me and wanting to drag my name through the mud. And then as life shows them what I've been trying to say, instead of just, maybe processing it, maybe keeping it to yourself, you're going to actively try to undo me. And I can see that when I Google my name.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, it's heartbreaking to Google my name. I don't like to be
No,
honest.
it is. I've Googled you. I've Googled me, and neither one of us, that's good things come up, and that's something that's always going to be there. That's
Yeah,
something that's always going to be there. And so people don't really understand that while you going through your damn learning curve, you are, I take the hits for it.
right,
We take the hits while you figuring shit out that we already know.
right.
You joining in the
And you're
choir.
contributing to our trauma. Like, I mean, this is so, if I ever wanted to get a regular job, thank God I probably won't. um,
Right.
Women like this woman who wrote me to apologize have actively contributed to ruin me, to ruin my name.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once they learn the lesson, it's like, oh, now I get it. And it's like, yeah, but what happened in the meantime? And I think that this is a really important lesson for us because here is the deal, and I said this on my platform today. You're not gonna always get a second time. You're not gonna there are situations in life where an opportunity will present itself and it's that one time. And if you do not make use of that opportunity, you won't get a second time. I mean, we see this all the time. You show up 20 minutes late for an interview for the job of your life, the job of your dreams, and you show up 20 minutes late for that interview. There's a good chance that you may not even be seen, but even if you are seen, that there's not going to be a second chance to make that first impression. Same thing, at work, even on romantic in the social world. You show up at a party, you dress the wrong way, you don't know how to carry yourself, you don't understand the proper protocols of that ecosystem, you're not going to get a second invite. If you go out on a date with someone and you don't know how to carry yourself, you don't know how to respond, you know how to act in specific environments, you're not going to get asked out again. And I think Black women really struggle with the idea of, you mean I'm not going to get a second chance? You mean you're not going to forgive me? You mean you're not going to understand? And I'm, like I said, I think that unfortunately religion kind of sets this tone for us of redemption, that we think that there's always a second chance, there's always, and maybe with Jesus, but not with John.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And not with that company that you wanted to work for, and not
Right.
necessarily with Kendall St. Charles or Christelyn Karazin. There has to be rules. There has to be lines in the sand. The reason why the Black community looks the way it looks is because we have no lines in the sand. And we truly
We just want
believe.
to and just any old kind of craziness. And I saw that with my own family. I'm like, why are you letting this man? He was just, he just got out of jail for drugs. Why are you, putting him in charge of the purse, hat, and coat check at the family reunion? Why are you giving him access to everybody's purse, everybody's coat?
Right.
Drug addict, and he steals. I mean, we do this. We really do. I
We
mean,
do, and we don't understand. And I think that other races of people get it, and this is where we really fall off. We really don't understand that there's a time and season for everything, and that there are times when a window will open up, or a specific time is ripe to make a certain move, or to to move in a certain way, and if you don't take advantage of it right there and then, there will not be a second opportunity. And I think Black people in general, women and men, really struggle with it in the Black community. And we talked about this before. The Black male thinks that he's supposed to be able to do anything. He can rob,
yeah,
murder, rape, steal, pillage, molest, whatever, and that all he has to do is profess, either ask for forgiveness from Allah or Jesus or Muhammad, whoever, or claim that he has now found himself in some African or blackity black thing, and Black people are going to open their arms for him. How many parties coming home parties do Black people throw for little Pookie who just got out of jail from doing at 8 to 10 bid for whatever? They don't have them kind of parties for Jonathan Jr. who graduated from college, but they do
right,
for Pookie who just got out of cell block D.
right.
So
You got all these, girls lining up, take him out, giving him money, all kinds of
yeah. And so the thing is, I
stuff
think Black
are
people,
so jacked up.
we're constantly thinking about, particularly for the men, but even sometimes as women, about redemption, and we don't realize that, what, like I said, whereas Jesus may give you a second, third, and fourth time, the rest of the world won't, and they don't care about your sob
Right,
story. And so when you have maligned me, when you have betrayed me, when you have worked with my open enemies, when you have slandered and libeled my name, when you tried to undo my business, when you tried to take money out of my coffers, when you worked with people who were trying to destroy me, or put my life, or my son's life, or my family's life in jeopardy, or your baby's lives, or your husband's life in jeopardy, you don't get to then come back around later on when you now get it, and we all good now. No, there are
right.
ramifications. I
No,
think Black people really struggle with the idea of consequences, Chris. We really struggle with the idea of consequences. If you do this, this is going to happen. If you do that, this might happen. And then when we do this and that happens, then we go running to the larger society, talking about unfair treatment. Well, how come the white man can he can rape and pillage and kill? When the thing was going on with R. Kelly a couple of months ago, where they were talking about him running this sex cult with these women, all of these comments and memes and videos floating around comparing R. Kelly to Hugh Hefner. with
Oh God.
comparing Bill Cosby to Harvey Weinstein, comparing. I mean, there's so many examples where Black people, particularly when it comes to Black men, this is not, this doesn't win, but they want the right to be just as duplicitous and criminal and just as devilish as other people, as white men, and they see it as an injustice that they're not allowed to get away with it. They're not allowed to get away with it. They don't have the
Well,
privilege.
how come I can't? You're absolutely right. And um, I wanted before we've talked about this particular issue for a while, but I wanted to get your take on this because I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you live about it. But this kind of goes hand in hand about actions and consequences, and even when you're presented with an alternative way of thinking or a different way of being, you're still going in this way. Particularly the news that now the out of wedlock rate from talking 72%.
Mhm.
Now it's
No,
77%.
77%. And that was as of May of last year, Chris. Did you
Yeah,
know that that stat was from May of last year? So this has been actually this
yeah.
new
So this is a
stat.
recent thing. I mean,
Hmm.
and I want to qualify it because apparently birth rates have gone down,
Hmm.
but Black women's standards have not gone up.
No, they have not.
In that we're so putting ourselves at a disadvantage when it comes to setting things up so that we can win, and being strategic and more mercenary about how we about sex selection, mate selection, hypergamy, all of that. um, I'm so are you shocked? I mean, I'm just so like,
I'm not shocked. I think in 10 years it'll be 80, 85%. I mean, we're going for 100% right here, and that's where we're going. Hmm.
I just, girl, 77%.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so, and but we can still, but we're still saying, we're still mad at Target for their baby
Yeah.
card.
Don't even get me started on that foolishness. I was going to address it. You addressed it on your platform. I just decided no. I just refused because it was a repeat of the thing with the baby carrier. Y'all remember the baby carrier situation a couple of years ago, where the black women were all up in arms because someone snapped a picture of a baby carrier sitting on the shelf in a Target or Walmart. And the baby carriers, the strap things that you put the baby on, either hold it, to your close to your body in the front, or you can carry the baby in the back. And there were two packages. There were one with a white couple, a white woman and a white man. The baby was on the woman's chest, and the man was standing behind her. And then there was another package where it was just the woman, a black woman, and the baby, but no man. And black women were all up in their feels about it, and it was so freaking ridiculous. And I was just like, here we go with our selective outrage again. Y'all need to knock it off. And act. What's ironic is that my frustration and my annoyance with black women is what led me to write my infamous "Stop It" post, the one that now everyone cites as me, encouraging the genocide of black people.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and the irony of it is, it wasn't out of frustration with black men that I wrote that post where I was telling black women, if you that damn unhappy, if you that so embarrassed, you so angry that you're gonna rise up anytime the larger white society acknowledges your reality, a reality that you choose, then stop choosing it. And that's when I wrote "Stop It," and I told you, if you have a problem with how the outside world perceives you, then choose a different way of being perceived, period. And that's when I wrote that infamous post when I said, if you stop it. If you don't like what being attached to the black man means and what it makes you look like to other people, then maybe you just need to reevaluate how you deal with him. And then that's when I wrote, stop supporting, stop whatever, stop. And then I said, and goddamn it, stop birthing him then. If you're that mad about being shown depicted alone on the packaging of a baby carrier product, then stop birthing them. If that's your problem, problem. So it was partly tongue in cheek when I wrote and it was really more as a kind of a mirror, a reflective post towards Black women to call out our bullshit. But of course, because of what I was saying was so controversial that people picked up with it and ran, and I don't really give a shit about it. So then that's what happened in 2014. So then to see the same thing happen in 2018 over this damn baby daddy card. And the thing about it is that I remember, listen, when you launched the No Wedding, No Womb in 2010, I was there. And I saw how people responded. I saw the conversations that were taking place. I think I even had a conversation about it myself in my own group. The original, no, it wasn't the original think tank because we weren't. I hadn't had the original think tank yet. But I think I might have even talked about it on my page or something. And I remember the pushback, and I mean, everybody was coming out against what you were saying, that it was elitist and classist, and it was all these ists.
Shaming Black.
Yes, and so then to turn around and see the same community who suggested that your suggestion that no wedding, no womb, meaning do not give babies to men who have not made you a wife, which is just basic. And this is kind of basic stuff for everybody on the rest of the planet. For some reason, it becomes so confusing for us as Black women to see the same demographic of people who had so much to say about what you were suggesting, to then get mad when the reality that we, both men and women, are choosing to be reflected back to us in the marketing by these companies who are simply serving the demographic. They know that 77% of our children are born out of wedlock. So when Father's Day rolls around, you're not saying Happy Father's Day, husband. You're saying baby daddy. So I don't understand. Exactly. And Black people and Black women in particular got all up in arms. And I'm just looking at this and I'm like, y'all are so fake and phony.
Right, exactly. Because here's the thing, marketing, maybe there's some part of it. I mean, there's certain things that are aspirational. Marketers, luxury cars, that's aspirational. How many people do you know buy luxury cars and damn well they can't afford them. But when it comes to practical things like cards, baby supplies, foods, they go with what the numbers reflect. They go with what the demographics reflect. And so they're just simply reflecting what the numbers see. This is not Black people want to be aspirational. We wish it looked like. We have this fantasy of a Black love situation where 77% of Black folks are married, and they're having these wonderful kids, and everything is wonderful, and we're creating these wonderful communities and building wealth and all this stuff. So that's aspirational, but marketers are not working in that world in that regard. When you're talking about selling a greeting card, they're trying to get the person who may purchase that greeting card to try to identify with their lifestyle as much as possible, to have it be as similar to what their lives are as possible, and relatable, so they can give it to that person. This is not like, aspirations. These are like realities that they're dealing with. So they're looking at the data and they're saying this is a reality, but Black folks want to be in denial and want to have this aspirational idea of what our relationships look like, when in fact our relationships as a whole are a shambles. That is just,
I just don't understand why. It's very interesting the times where we choose to become embarrassed.
Yeah,
that's
but
very
I think when other people see it, I think that's
that's what I mean.
So
but more specifically, white people. When white people acknowledge what we, but the thing about it, if we talk about baby mamas in the songs, we talk about baby mamas in music, we talk about baby mamas in our everyday lives, baby daddies, baby mamas. So clearly, we ain't ashamed of it. So I don't understand, where's all of this consternation now about it. Well, why? So one woman asked on my platform, well, why are they pointing out the worst in us? And I'm like, because I don't understand. Why would you ask a silly question like that? That is the world that we live in.
And we're about majority, they're playing the numbers. They're
not
playing
just
the majority.
The question that I have is, she asked, well, why, is capitalism? Yes, you live in a capitalistic world. That's why you get up every day and take your ass to that job so you can get paid. So if you ain't that damn anti-capitalist, because I notice your ass ain't living under a bridge somewhere talking about you don't want to work. So, once again, your selective morality. But what's interesting is that she asked me, well, you other cultures have bad things happen in their culture, but you don't see them playing to that. And I'm like, yeah, but the other cultures don't push force the underbelly of their society as the main
Mhm.
culture. Black people are the only race of people who put forward, who, when you go, if you ask white people about their history, they're going to show you England, and they're going to show you and all of the great things of the empire. You ask Italians about their history, they're going to take you to see the Sistine Chapel, and they're going to talk about Rome. They're not going to tell you about the mafia in Sicily.
Right.
If you ask the Japanese to show you their culture and what they have to offer, what have they contributed to society, they're going to show you the history of these ancient dynasties,
Mhm.
and they're going to talk about the samurai and the ninja and all of these high cultural things that they created. They're
And the
not going to
games,
point you
all
right.
of that.
They're not going to point you to the yakuza. But if
Mhm.
you ask the black man and woman, show us your culture, show us who you are. Oh, we're gonna twerk.
Right.
We're gonna throw that ass in a circle. We're gonna tell them
Mhm.
all them hoes to rake it up. We're
Mhm.
going to point to Lil Wayne and Drake and Beyonce and say, look, behold, this
Yeah.
is what we have contributed. And it's just as good as what you white people have done. It's our Ebonics is just as good as your
Right.
French and your Spanish. Our made up names, clickety clack names with De La Tapa Isha in between every 15 syllable is just as legitimate as your names that have a history tied to a language, a land, and a bloodline going back 3,000 years. So we are the ones who push forward
Right.
the worst of ourselves to the world and say and demand that the world accept us. And
And
anytime
it's not
someone,
even that is that we don't make the distinction. So we'll have the worst of our communities
yes,
acting like donkeys, and we make excuses for that. We will never delineate
no,
that
because
bad behavior.
we think it's classist and sexist and racist, and it's part of white supremacy to divide us and destroy us. And I get that. I get that. But what has unfortunately, and this is an argument that goes back to the debates between Garvey and Du Bois. This has been going on for 100 years about, the talented tenth versus the ignorant masses. This has been going on for a long time. And what has happened is, unfortunately, certain voices in the community, with the backing of certain agendas and the large clandestine agendas in the government and larger entities pushed this thing in the community where you're never to look down on black people from the inner city or black people from certain demographics, black people who are ignorant, black people who are impoverished. You're never to think better. You're better than them. They're just as good as you. We need unity in the community. But what it did was it allowed the worst of us to bubble up to the surface and then be projected and promoted. I mean, there is absolutely no reason why in our community why um, actors and entertainment and ignorant mumble rappers have more influence over the
Right.
community than the educators and the leaders, and in many cases even the politicians. I mean, it's so ass backwards. So when sis said to me, well, why they always promoting the worst of our people, I'm like, that's because we do. And
Exactly.
I don't understand, Chris, why they think that why black people think that we can promote and push all of this stuff to the world stage and say you have to accept it. You have to allow your children, your white bread children, to you have to allow my twerk and mumble rapping children who can barely speak English correctly to go to school with your well-bred, privileged children. If I were white people, I wouldn't want my child to have to go to school with that low-bred crap either.
Right.
So, but we have gone out into the world and tried to make the world feel bad and feel guilty and ashamed for not wanting to accept the worst of what we have to offer. And don't get me wrong, by no means am I not suggesting that there has not been all of these things, the redlining and all that stuff. We know they burned down Tulsa. Please stop talking about Tulsa, my God. If I hear one more black person bring up Black Wall Street, I swear to God,
Right.
that was 100 years ago. Listen, nobody has to accept your degeneracy, not even your fellow black person. And
Right.
to suggest that we are the ones, and particularly the black woman has been the one who has insisted through her social justice warriorship, social justice activism, and her very vocal yelling and screaming over both bullhorns that the worst of Black people needs to be held to the same regard as the best of other races. And she is the one, the Black woman is the one who has pushed the degeneracy as acceptable onto the world stage by, always, and it's always the intelligentsia, it's always, the
The
Melissa Harris
professors
Perry,
in the
you know,
universities, good God.
yes, those women the feminists and all that, who's going to push this idea. And so I don't understand why we are then surprised when we openly celebrate and promote the worst of what our people have to offer and try to normalize it on the grand stage, and then be surprised when the grand stage says, okay, we hear you. So now
Right,
we're going to market to what you have told us is okay. Because
right.
when you came along almost 10 years ago now and said, no, it's not okay to have all of these children out of wedlock. We really need to be rethinking this reproductive thing. They told you that you were elitist, classist, and all of that. So you were co-signing the very thing that now 8 years later you're complaining about when you see in Walmart card section. So which is
Mm-hmm.
it? Do you want
Exactly.
uh, to embody the best of what Black people can be, or do you want the worst of what you are to be accepted unconditionally? Because you can't have it both ways. And every other race of people knows this but us.
They
That means,
delineate. They will separate. White people
yes,
separate. Asian
everybody
people
separates.
separate. They're like, no, we
But
over here. You,
But what happens is, I call it bleeding up. The lines between the classes and Blackness and the Black race and Black community, especially the Black American community, are very blurred. And I knew this growing up in Brooklyn. You could live on my block. You would have, one house, a brownstone that was beautiful, that was owned by six-figure earnings, earning people who kept up their property, who were tax-paying citizens, had careers, got up every day, got on that train, went to work. And then two doors down, you could have a Section 8 family. The house is tore
Mhm.
up. There's 1,000 kids. And so, it's a little different for us than it is for other races, where the classes are more stratified and more, absolute. That line is very absolute. For us, it all bleeds together. We may be six-figure niggas, but our sisters or our uncles or our brothers are still in the hood. And so I get why we don't want to leave them behind, but the problem is you can't have it both ways.
No.
And Black people keep trying to have it both ways. And Black women, because we're the mothers of all of this, we want everything that we produce to be accepted, good, bad, and ugly. And we get mad because we see white women create serial killers, white women create molesters and rapists and people who will do all kinds of horrible things, and they're accepted. So how come our sons and our daughters who are not perfect can't be accepted? But you don't run this world, so you
Right.
don't get to dictate that. And so when you trying to get all of them accepted, then none of us are. And so that's
Exactly.
why you walk into on Father's Day, you go into Target and you see a baby daddy card, and you're not in a position to really challenge it. I mean, they offered an apology, just like the baby carrier company did a couple of years ago, and all that. But in the end, what should matter is not what the larger society reflects back to you, but what you show up as. And I just find it very disturbing and questionable that we are more concerned about how we think other people see us than how we actually are.
Right. I think, like you said, concerned about how white people see us. And what was interesting is, I want to transition to the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about. And that had to do with an article that I found about China being extremely now concerned that the flood of immigrants, African immigrants, into their country is bringing Ebola, AIDS, and will change the face of China, and black men are going to bring interracial marriage, and the thing that was so interesting about all that was, here you have Chinese men going to African countries, basically default colonizing them, marrying the women, sometimes not marrying them, creating a whole new race of brown and yellow people,
Hmm.
establishing businesses, building wealth. pretty much taking over whole countries. But Chinese men do not want black folks in their country, which I find
Nope.
so. This is so patriarchal. It's like, okay, it's
Hmm.
good for you, but it's just so interesting that here we go again.
Well, yeah, our article just came out yesterday or day before yesterday. It talks about how the Chinese are talking about ramping up their military presence in Africa. So, I mean, it's clear what's happening. This is a stab and grab here. And this is not the first time this has happened with Black people. This has happened many times over the past couple of thousand years, where, of course, there is nobody proper at the gate. At the gate, it is what it is. Until the foreigner shows up, he's got a camel. He's either on a camel, he could be on a horse, he could be in a boat,
Mm-hmm.
he could be on a life raft. Dude can be on some driftwood and
He
show
could
up
be
to
in
the
a
shores
freaking
of
spaceship.
Africa. Girl, he can float in on
Come
some
down from the
driftwood
planet Xanos.
from Xanos, beam himself down, and within 50 years, he's running the whole fucking continent.
Right.
And this has happened over and over and over again. At this point, I'm not even mad about it. I'm like, dude, like, come on, son.
Mhm.
It's been
Right.
like 1,000 years. We got a whole G on this shit. From the
Right.
Arab and the Turks to Indians to Europeans, now the Chinese coming
Right.
in and
Come
just doing
on.
whatever. Right. So at this point, I think it is being, and I don't want to hear nothing about how these evil men are doing all these stuff to the poor Africans and the poor African men. Men are men, and you are supposed to figure out how to win,
Right.
how to beat them at the next man at his own game. And if the Black man can't figure that out, then at this point, I don't know what else to say. I'm not going to make
I know.
myself all angry about it, but yes, it says a lot that right in the as the Asian man colonizes Africa, he's shutting
Yeah.
down his borders to
Right.
black
We don't
men.
want y'all over here, but we gonna come. We gonna take your
Listen,
land, your
yes, your
resources,
women, your
your women.
resources, your
We gonna
gold, your platinum, your
government.
plutonium, everything. And years ago, I had one of my roommates who was South African. She was a recent law school graduate. She was native born she was native born Congolese, but she lived in South Africa, and she worked for a firm in New York that was based out of South Africa, and they were a law office that oversaw mining rights in throughout different countries in Africa. And she's talked about how easy it is to get mining rights, to get permits to go into Africa and just mine the land for whatever you want to take. It is not difficult at all. And so it's very interesting to see that at the same time, when you have Asian men colonizing Africa, they're also reverse engineering this sucker so that the reverse cannot happen. I don't know. I don't remember. Is it Korea? Was it Korea? I think it might have been Korea. It might have been China. It was one of the Asian countries. Earlier this year or last year, they put some law into effect that said that hip hop culture, music culture, was banned in their country.
Yeah, they're
That
like, I don't want that.
we don't want that degenerate shit taking over our women, our children.
Folks
So
like this.
they are, as they right now create genetic ties to the land by scooping up all of those Black women in Africa who are desperate for help, who need help, who are in these horrible situations in these countries with these men who are doing horrible things to them and are jumping at the first chance for something else, just like Asian women did with white men after World War II. But it's very interesting to see that at the same moment where they are actively colonizing Black homelands, they're also eliminating Black access, Black reach into their cultures. So it's very interesting to see what's happening. And I'm just going to sit back and watch. And because I told y'all that this was going to happen, I told y'all about these Hunger Games. I told you that
Yeah.
you are being prepared now to become the permanent underclass of this global society. And I learned that from a Black man. Dr. Claude Anderson has been talking about this for the past 50 years. So, I mean, I did my due. I tried to say it. Y'all told me I was a bedwench coon whore, bastard baby making, BT 1000, washed up baby mama from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, bum bitch from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, all
Right.
those bees. And so now I'm just going to sit back and watch it play out as
Right.
as I do whatever I need to do for my life and take care of myself and my bloodline. But it's very interesting. Black people rebuke wisdom constantly, and
Yeah.
we pay dearly for it. And so do Black women. And so This is the letter that you got today, and the email that I got a couple of days ago will not be the last one that we get of Black women who had to eat humble pie after they gave us their ass to kiss because they refused to heed wisdom because they wanted
And they
what.
don't and they don't acknowledge that history has something to teach us, and that living and life experience has something to teach. You know, here we are, we're seeing how these things play out when you do not take those things into consideration. It keeps happening over and over again, and at some point you have to just ask, what's wrong? When we have, like, literally Africa, from a resource standpoint, is the richest country um, on the earth in terms of natural resources. You know, Africa should be a superpower. And why? Why? Why isn't it?
Well,
Um,
they're gonna tell you because the evil albinoid.
okay, so now it's going to be the what is it?
In 50 years, it'll be the
The
even
evil
the
mongoloid.
evil mongoloid. That's what somebody will be
Mongoloid.
on YouTube talking about the evil mongoloid and how he's got recessive Neanderthal genes, and he's, this is what they're going. This is the stuff that Black people busy themselves with, rather than facing some harsh truths about ourselves. But at this point, you like it, I love it. Like I said, I am no longer in the business of making myself crazy about the failures of Black people. And as far as I'm concerned, I would love for Black men to become the type of men that could get a seat at the table and play this game the way it needs to be played. But it's been quite some time and they're really struggling trying to figure out what to do. And at this point, I'm too old to care. I did that black, conscious woke Black mess when I was in my 20s and made stupid life decisions because of it. But, I'm old now. I ain't got time. Y'all say I'm old. I'm agree with you. I'm too old to care. And so
So
you like it. I love it.
so here's this. I normally don't call out trolls, but this is so funny. Melanin Rich
Yeah, I've been watching it, and I'm watching them
said
in the
the
thing.
self hate in this chat is disgusting or sickening or whatever. How is this so? Okay, like, let's just even think about it. You said they just throw that out there.
Mhm.
The self hate is, how do we hate ourselves? By just stating, this is what is happening. We're reporting on what is happening. We're reporting on how this thing's going because we have an understanding of history and how this whole colon, uh, you know, colonization thing happens. Like, how is it that if we refuse to be delusional, we hate ourselves? Like, that's some pretzel mind making. Like, you got to just bend yourself in all kinds of different ways to make that be about hating yourself, because we're calling attention to foolish behaviors that, here's the thing, nobody's calling out these foolish behaviors that continue to perpetuate, because we're not, as a collective, saying to each other, hey, maybe we don't want to do this. Maybe this is stupid. We're too busy stroking each other's melanin. Oh, like, melanin is magic. We're just stroking the melanin. No, there are no mistakes. Everything is perfect. Everybody else is evil and wrong. Nothing that we do is evil and wrong. And if we do anything that's evil and wrong, it's because of white people or because of capitalism or imperialism or colonialism or whatever. It's never anything that we should be held accountable to. And if we don't go into that mindset and we don't adopt that mindset, then we hate ourselves. It is just ridiculous.
Well, I mean, the thing about it so interesting is that, we're the bed wench swirlers, but they're the ones who worship white people. They worship white people. I don't worship white people. I don't worship white men. I can acknowledge what is. I can acknowledge who's the winner and who's winning without worshiping them. Black people worship white people. They need white supremacy. They need it like a drug because without it, they have no identity. They have nothing. They don't exist on their own. They only exist in opposition to white supremacy, in opposition to white men. They don't have, especially Black Americans. This is uniquely a Black American, I would say, phenomenon. They don't exist outside of white supremacy. They talk about getting rid of dismantling white supremacy and getting rid of white people. They wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
Right.
Black American people have no concept of what it is to be a group, a race, a nation without their
Having a
opposite.
villain.
without a
Yeah.
villain. They don't know. And so I, when they say that we're the self-haters and all that, I just chuckle because I don't see the difference between me and most black people is that I can acknowledge who's winning without worshiping the victor.
Right.
And they will,
Mhm.
we've heard it said that people will suggest that we worship white men. I mean, even some black women are suggested that we worship the white man, that we put him on a pedestal and let him get away with stuff that we would never let black men get away with. Listen, I'm a dark wisdom woman. I don't get caught up in none of that foolishness. I'm about who wins. And when I look at who's winning and I look at who's losing and I look at the mindset of the winner and the mindset of the loser, that's the only thing I care about. It's not that I worship white men. If black men were to suddenly somehow pull it together and start winning, then I'd be checking for the brothers and
Right.
be like, all right,
Exactly.
what you got? What you got? I'm watching you.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
you can't.
And so we have to have these conversations, but that's why we have always, we've had to collectively, you first and then me, pull back because not, we have to understand, and you understand it. You understood a lot sooner than I did that the vast majority of Black women just are not quite ready to hear this message, and that's why we have these elite circles. And so you've had several events most recently that have been truly amazing. And you've got some other things planned. So um, we're about to close. We've actually been on here almost 4 hours. But before we do, I want people to understand that what you are doing and where you're going with these projects, and understanding that this train is a very, this is not a, this is not going to be a rush hour train where there's going to be all of these scheduled times where everybody's going to have an opportunity. This is going to be an elite group of people who are going to recognize the writing on the wall and are not going to be recalcitrant and understand that there are certain moves that they need to make. And this is where the direction that Kendall is going in. So let me stop telling people what you're trying to do when you can just tell people what you're trying to
Well, I
do.
mean, Chris, I spent the better part of the last 5 years trying to contextualize for us so that we better understand Black women what's going on. And I think I've done that. I put in over 200 videos on YouTube, and that's not even including the private ones. I've had, 50, 60 events open to the public. I had a think tank for 2 years where we had 50 telecalls. I think that I've done that part of really kind of contextualizing and deconstructing, analyzing, and helping Black women understand our situational position. And so I've done that, and I'm good. Moving forward, when I get ready to launch my blue pill, my blue pill platform, we will be moving forward, and anybody that comes along with me, it's going to be assumed that you already did that baseline work. We're not slowing down for fence sitters, women who are not sure, who still want to try it out to see, who still I'm not doing any of that. It is now time to move forward, to level up, as everyone is saying right now. And so my new platform is going to be a level up platform where we are going to talk about navigating, strategizing. You're going to come together with like-minded Black women who are on the same journey, at the same stage that you are in, or at least somewhere close, where we talk about navigating at work, strategizing in love and romance and sex, traveling, expating, engaging in that luscious life that many of us secretly want, and appreciating what what is available to you once you've done all of that other stuff and you've divested, and now you are, or in the process of divesting, and you are now creating a new reality for yourself. And so that's where I'm moving forward. And so I'm still doing video. I'm still doing events on my platform right now, still kind of covering the healing work. So right now I have a 10-part series, the Black Woman series, where I'm covering different archetypes and topics of Black womanhood that I think we really need an in-depth analysis of, so that we can learn how to strategize them in our lives. So the first one that I did was a parallel study of The Handmaid's Tale, this Hulu series, where I did a study of the world of Gilead, which is the world of The Handmaid's Tale, and Blackistan, and showed how the archetypes match, one for one. That was the first event. That was very good. women are still, contacting me and telling me how great it was. The second one I just did was Healing the Daughter Wound, where we talked about 4 archetypes of Black mothers who end up causing a wound in us as daughters, and how to strategize the healing process, learning to mother yourself, so that you don't walk around the rest of your life looking for a mother in every face that you see, male or female. The next one that is coming up is my Black Madonna event, where I'm going to talk about what it's like to be the single mother, or the mother, not just a single mother, but primarily single, but the mother of Black males, and why we do what we do. If that one is going to be the one, because everybody got so much to say about us now. Everybody got, even the women are now joining the bandwagon, blaming everything on the single Black mother. And so I'm going to hip y'all to some game about us and why we do the things we do, and also to help you strategize and navigate around us, because we present some problems for Black women in the community. And so this is going to be opportunity for those of us who are single Black mothers to tell our side of the story, to explain what makes us do what we're doing, the pressures that we feel, and the things that we're trying to accomplish, and how we mess up sometimes, trying to overcompensate for the stuff that we're up against. But then also for those of you who have shared communities with us, who have shared home with us, those of you who are the daughters of Black mothers who preferred your brothers over you, this will be your opportunity to hold us accountable and say, dude, don't you realize that what you're doing in this community is affecting me? And so this is going to be a serious event. That's going to be not this week, but next week coming. And we're going to host an event on colorism. We're going to host in this 10-part series, I'm going to be hosting events back to back to back, about these topics. And then leading up to what should be around that time, the launch of my new platform, which we will be moving in a completely different direction. All of the old events and recordings will be archived, and we moving forward. We're leveling up, and we are going to choose better. We're going to turn this choose better thing on its head and make them rue the day that they told us to choose better, because my version of choosing better looks very different than what I
Yeah.
think they had in mind.
Yep. Mhm.
And I'm looking forward to that. So I only want those boss bitches. I want those chicks who are serious. I don't want no fence sitters, women who are still unsure, still trying to be blackety black, but also want to be sovereign. This is not going to be the space for you. There are plenty of spaces where you can fence sit, all that you want on YouTube and on other places in social media. My platform will not be for that. So I'm looking forward to that level of work, that elite level of work on my platform, as you have already established on yours with your Black Beyond Black and White Elite.
Yes, it's going to be pretty amazing. I'm putting the link, you guys, in the chat, for the mailing list. You definitely want to join that, because you don't want to miss. If you are lucky enough to catch Kendall when she does a live on Facebook, she does that on occasion. She pops in and says, comes down and says word. You might want to bookmark that Facebook page, Kendall St. Charles Presents, because she'll do those lives, but it's nothing like the actual events that she has. They are truly life changing, and I can say from somebody who has taken her advice and implemented the things that she's told me to do, because you can't just take the listen to the advice and spend the time and then not implement. She always tells me, you listen to me, you do what I say. And I do what she tells me to do, and it has worked for me. And so there's something for everybody, and people could say I was relatively successful,
Oh no, you wasn't relative. Listen, don't you be humble. I won't be humble for you. Okay, I'll be braggadocious for you. You were not relatively successful. Your pink pill is a monumental success. And for all the haters and all the naysayers who had so much to say, all I can say is take that, because
Yeah.
yeah, eat that. because your
Yeah.
pink pill has been a monumental success. You still have people signing up. I'm in the group. I'm an admin in the group, and the conversations are great. Women are coming. You see this evolution process of women who are pink pilling themselves, and coming and asking for advice. And the funny thing is, yes, we talk about men, we talk about relationships, but there's lots of conversations about navigating the workplace and navigating different social circles and losing weight and cultivating a new personal aesthetic and getting your mind right when you may
Yeah.
feel a little nervous or insecure about entering a new world or trying a new thing. And there's women of all ages in the group. It's not just young women. There are women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s in that group
Yes.
who are all in there looking to level up at whatever level they are in life. And
And share their information and knowledge that they've learned along the way, which is invaluable.
yeah, you
It's
get
like having
400
really
women in
smart
that group.
big sisters, really smart mothers that you never had, just telling you
Right.
stuff you should have known, you know?
Yes, and being willing to share those lessons that we were learned the hard way with the younger
Yeah.
sis who so that they won't make the same mistakes. And then for those of us who did make those mistakes, we talk about how to course correct. And so for anybody who underestimated what you were doing with that pink pill, I just chuckle because it is beyond people paid for. You are continuing to add to it. You are continuing to post new things. You have some new things that you're going to be announcing attached to the Pink Pill brand that are really great and going to help Black women level up. And so, I think that you've proved them all wrong, which I knew you would, and you have been an excellent. I don't want to say student, but you have been an excellent. You have been an you have allowed me to guide you in a way that really honored my wisdom, and you implemented, and you would take what I would tell you, and you would take it to the next level. And I think the success that you have seen, and the growth that you have had in the last couple of months reflects that. It is well earned. It is yours. So I pay homage to you for that, and it
Thank
really
you.
proves what can
But yeah, no,
happen.
it's been a smash hit, widely well reviewed. It is, my magnum opus. I'm so extremely proud of it, and is not. It's probably more reasonably priced than most course. Well, actually, there's no course out there that exists that's like this. So it's unique in and of itself. But courses, just in general, in the genre of self improvement, tend to be quite more costly. But what I
Hmm.
have done between now and July 5th is that anything on the Beyond Black and White teacher school page. So it's the Pink Pill, Online Dating Decoded, Pros and Cons of Dating White Men, and the Guy's Guide. All of it up until the 5th is 30% off with the coupon code Liberty in all caps. So because knowledge is freedom and freedom is liberating. So I'm doing that in conjunction to everybody else is doing a sale on 4th of July. So might as well be me too. So I'm going to put that out there. And like I said, Kendall has these events that are coming up that are just completely life changing. I've been witness. I've participated in one. They're truly, the work that you put into it, Kendall. Like, oh my God, I don't. There are not many people who can put that amount of psychic energy, emotional energy, and research into how you do it so thorough in every way. You just don't know what you're missing when you are not part of that circle. So I invite you to be part of that circle. And it may seem like we're just stroking each other right now, but everybody in the who's listening, and there's 413 people watching right now. Many of them years, and they know that what we're saying is not just a bunch of yeah. This is actually the truth. So um, with that, I want to take it full circle and say thank you, Ryder, for having the guts, because I think it's gutsy to tell people, acknowledge when you are wrong, especially if you haven't been caught and cornered. And when you're actually bringing it to my attention that you've done these that, I'm sad that my name had to be dragged with your help. But it's nice to know that people do eventually come around. I'm a little bit more forgiving. Kendall is not.
No, I'm not at all. I'm not at all. I'm not forgiving at all.
um, but anyway, I've told people how to contact you. Is there any closing remarks that you'd like to mention that I didn't mention before, or
I just want to say that, you've been doing this a lot longer than me. You're going on 10 years with your platform, and I just really want to say, thank you for pushing through, because it's hard to have people do what is done to us, and to stay in there and to stay motivated and to stay optimistic, when the women, in particular the women who you are trying to help, can sometimes be the worst enemy to what you're trying to do. And so this email that you received is a prime example of, the fortitude that you have shown in the face of all of this, because I can say with in definitive terms, that had I been you and experienced the things that you experienced, I would not still be around almost 10 years later. I just wouldn't. And the fact that you looking better than ever, by the way. You look absolutely fabulous. Skin is popping, and you just look great. And you share a lot of your beauty secrets and stuff in the Pink Pill group. But you look great. You sound great. You're stronger than you've ever been. You've learned those lessons. You've learned them, and you have now. You're using them to make you better at what you do. And I just want to say that I honor that in you, because this is not easy work, and few
no,
people can hang in there the way you have and come out so clean on the other side. So I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for allowing me to share this little chat with you tonight. And
absolutely. We had to. We kind of have to do every once in a while. I told you so. I know it's maybe
mhm.
not in the best taste, but I feel like we deserve it every now and again for the stuff that we go through, to be like, nana nana boo boo. We done told you.
Yeah. And I think
So
as more time unfolds, we're going to see a lot more people
a lot
who are
more.
outed for having giving us their ass to kiss, and eventually have to, in one way, form or another, maybe not to us, maybe not publicly, will eventually capitulate and admit that what we were saying is true. They're going to live a little more, and they're going to see.
Yeah, guaranteed. I don't know. We'll see if the double C cups be part of that group. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I don't know about that, girl. I don't hold out hope. All right, ladies, well, y'all
All
have a good night. Y'all have a
right. Bye, everybody. Happy 4th of July.
good